Today, we're gonna fix this table saw fence and make it a little bit better. So this table saw fence is actually from the original Makita table saw you see here, but I made a few modifications to it. One of the biggest reasons for modding the table saw was because I wanted to embed the table saw in the workbench so I can have one flat surface, so that way when the blade is down, I just have one big table with no gaps. The first hurdle I had when modifying the table saw fence was that originally, you can see this part of it, originally it had an end here that clipped onto the back of the table saw, and that prevented the end from swiveling back and forth, and had one long bolt all the way through, so that when it did this, it clamped on both sides, making the table saw and the fence itself tight to the table. One of the first things I did when modifying this table saw fence was remove the end cap, which, as you know, hooked the other end to the table, preventing it from wobbling back and forth, as well as shorten the bolt that connected one end to the other. When shortening the bolt, however, that left this end to freely wiggle, and I had to figure out a solution to keep this lever action tight against the groove here in the table saw. So the goal of today is to replace this, which is what I use to beefen up the joint here on the table saw, and it keeps it a little bit stronger, you know, it keeps it a little bit more sturdy, that's fine. But I was having a problem with the screws stripping out of the inside of the MDF, because, you know, it's MDF, it doesn't really hold screws. I was using drywall screws for this, and I think I'm going to switch to these bigger hex head screws. I think these should be better, or Torx head rather, sorry. And I'm going to replace the MDF, which I think what is this? I don't know, 5/8 something? I don't remember. I'm going to replace it with this 3/4 of an inch Baltic birch plywood, and it should be much stronger. And basically what we want to do is do the same thing as this, where you see the end here. I want to cap this off. I'm basically going to make them exactly the same, except I'm just going to make it out of this plywood, and then I'll just do the same thing, and that should strengthen the joint here a bit. And there's a little bit of a gap, I might have to fill that, but yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So the first thing we want to do here is actually line these up, and I have the backs here lined up, and we're just gonna make a mark. I have a pencil on me, it's all the way over here. It's a fly trapped in my window. Okay, the first thing we want to do is make a mark right here, because we want to make it basically the exact same size. I think that should work. I'm going to cut out 2 of those. Let's do it. Let's take the square and make a line across the top here. And now we know where to cut the miter saw. Okay, both pieces are cut. They are flush enough for the most part. I mean, they were the same cut. So now the next thing we're gonna do is line this up and figure out this distance here. Alright, so now that we have the line marked, we can go cut it off at the miter saw. Okay, so you can see one of these ends is actually diagonal. I'm gonna have to recut this at the miter saw. Okay, that looks much better. It's a little more square, doesn't need to be perfect. Now to check the fit. Looks good to me. It looks flush here, flush on this side, good to go. So I'm gonna leave this clamped here. The next thing I wanna do is put glue here, and we're going to use the nailer, get some nails in there, and have it attach. you can see this is what happens when you angle the nail too wrong. We have a piece of nail that's sticking out. Shouldn't be too hard to remove. You just wiggle it back and forth, and eventually, well, this will be easier with a wrench. You wiggle it back and forth. Eventually, it comes off. Easy. As you can see, there's holes here in the end, and these three. I had to mark from this template, from the old fence onto here by reversing it. I want to put the screws in this way this time, because last time I had them like this, and you see the screw heads here. I did it the other way around. I just flipped the template around, and I have the markings on here. They're a little faint to see, but luckily these holes are big enough, and if I miss a little bit, it's not a big deal. All right, let's drill these holes out. Okay, let's get these screws in. The fit is really nice. It looks good. It's better than before. I'm sorry about the shaking it, but I think the next thing we're going to do is apply a coat of paste wax here and down here, so that way we have a slippery fence. You can see I got the paste finishing wax, so we're gonna apply it to here. All right, let's see how it cuts. Slides nicely, I'll give you that. Oh, shaking the camera a bit. All right, let's just cut this like an arbitrary amount here. Lock it in. Don't forget your push sticks. Turn on the dust collection. Looks good to me. All right, we fixed it. It works great. You know, it is a table saw fence. It was a very simple project. Hopefully this gives you some inspiration on what to do with your table saw, maybe to mod it and make your tools better. So if you guys like the video, comment down below. If you think I could have done something better, let me know. But thank you guys for watching, and that was Bill Builds.